Three, two, one.
Hi, 611. My name is Sarah Wieslow, and I'm here today with my group, EST4. Our group consists of 6 members, all pursuing a higher education in the Applied Behavior Analysis program here at Ball State. The members of our group include Ashley Elsey, 25, who is a program manager apprentice at a nonprofit ABA center from Carmel, Indiana. JC Elways, 27, is a lead teacher at a nonprofit ABA center from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Trinisha Brooks, 35, works as a behavioral consultant from Evansville, Indiana. Mari Fisher, 30, is a BCBA intern at a clinic from Spring, Texas. Aaron Tabb, 37, is currently a student from Joplin, Missouri. And myself, 25, working as a recreational therapist from Wheeling, West Virginia. Now that you all know a little bit about us, we're going to start off the presentation with Ashley, talking a little bit more about the purpose of this replication project.
The purpose of the replication project is to give us students the experience of replicating a published single-subject research study. In doing this, it gives us the experience of researching peer-reviewed journals in the field of ABA. Our group chose to replicate a behavior change study by Matthew P. Normand. This study focuses on the use of a pedometer to self-monitor daily step count, to follow goal setting, and to practice the giving and receiving of social feedback and praise contingencies. Next, we'll have Sarah discussing more specifics of our study.
For our replication project, we chose a study by Matthew P. Normand called Increasing Physical Activity Through Self-Monitoring, Goal Setting, and Feedback. Normand defined a step as any activity that resulted in a count being recorded and displayed in the pedometer. This is the behavior definition that our group chose to follow. We each used a pedometer, either a Fitbit or a Garmin tracker, in order to record our daily steps. As a group, we replicated the methods of this study in the efforts to increase our daily step count, practice self-monitoring, and offer support and feedback to our group members. This intervention was in place in an effort to increase participants' physical activity in the form of increased steps that were taken each day. We have a quick video that we would like to share with you next. This video is called Why You Need to Walk 10,000 Steps a Day, and it will give you a little bit more background information on why Normand may have used certain standards in his study.
I'm hearing everywhere that walking 10,000 steps a day is the ultimate way to reach good health. But is that true? Anthony Carboni here for D-News, and about a year ago, I heard that walking 10,000 steps a day is better for you than just about anything else you can do. Why? Well, the average person has such a sedentary lifestyle, sitting at a desk, in a car, in front of a TV or a computer, that doing the 30 minutes of moderate physical activity recommended by the CDC couldn't possibly counteract all that lying around. Why 10,000 steps? What's the theory behind it? What research led to this magical, seemingly way too round and simple a number? Well, none at first. In the 1960s, walking clubs were super popular in Japan, and they were so popular that everybody wanted a pedometer. Those pedometers were marketed under the name Manpoke, which means 10,000 steps meter, because this Japanese doctor, Yoshiro Hatano, estimated that that should be enough steps to burn 20% of the calories that somebody takes in. That's a good name, it's a good estimate, and the concept stuck. But does walking 10,000 steps a day actually work? Well, yeah, studies done recently show that hitting the goal can lower your blood pressure and improve your glucose levels. An Australian study showed that meeting the goal actually improved someone's brain function and level of physical fitness by 2%. But so can considerably fewer steps for most people. So the average American takes about 5,100 steps a day. Now the CDC says that upping that to 8,000 can still give you all the health benefits you need and is basically equivalent to adding a 30-minute walk onto your day. Okay, but what if you already work out? Or what if you jog? Even if you get less than 10,000 steps, running has got to be equal to walking, right? Well, not really. Over the last 19 years, obesity in the US has increased by about 57%, and physical activity at work and at home has declined at a similar rate. We sit around a lot, and Lacey did an entire video here on the channel about how unhealthy long periods of sitting can be. So if you jog a couple miles and get 4,000 steps in, or if you hit the gym and get 30 minutes of increased heart rate, but then spend the other 23.5 hours of your day sitting around, you are not getting the same health benefits you would by hitting the gym, but also making sure you hit your walking goal. That's not to say stop going to the gym. It's also not to say jump in right now and get 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day immediately. Adding any level of activity can get you immediate benefits. Colorado has one of the lower obesity rates in the US, and they walk about 6,500 steps a day. Tennessee and Arkansas have high obesity rates, and they walk about 4,500 steps a day. So that 2,000 steps is making a big difference in overall health. So no, 10,000 steps is not a magic number, and it's not going to get you in shape on its own. But a day full of slow, steady, simple physical activity like walking can be extremely healthy for you. Have you guys tried this? How is it working for you? Let me know down below, and subscribe for more D News.
So next, I'll be doing...
Hey guys, what's up? It's Zuri, and in this video,
Next, I'll be doing the literature review. Research has shown that there is a decrease in physical activity after the age of 12 years old. Ackberg, Soderlund, and Linden define physical activity as bodily movement that is produced by the muscles and generates energy expenditure. Sedentary behavior is defined as behavior that is characterized by sitting, laying down, or any activity that is characterized by low energy expenditure. In the United States, people between the ages of 16 and 19 are the most sedentary age group. They spend 60% of their day sitting down. Sedentary behavior is defined as sedentary behavior cause about 9% of premature mortality. Reasons that people do not engage in physical activity include no time available, no role model, and the weather. Daily physical activity is a key component to a healthy lifestyle. Researchers have found that setting goals and self-monitoring physical activity can improve daily physical activity. Walking an extra 2,000 to 2,500 steps could be enough physical activity to prevent weight gain. The recommendation for physical activity is 60 minutes for people under the age of 18. Research has demonstrated that when people self-monitor their physical activity, it increases awareness and engagement of physical activity. Self-monitoring activities include keeping a log, journal, and having reminders to engage in physical activity. In addition, the use of a pedometer, activity tracker, heart monitors, and smartphone apps can track physical activity. Using these self-monitoring devices are easy and usually do not cost a lot of money. Self-monitoring makes the person aware of their physical activity or lack of physical activity, which can remind them to exercise. In one study done, a device was worn to track physical activity of men around the age of 18 years old. The result of this study showed a positive effect on the sedentary behavior and the physical activity that was being expended. In another study, participants reported that they were eager to wear the device tracker. In addition to self-monitoring, goal setting, and feedback on daily activity is an important part to increase physical activity. Tracking gives the person and health professionals a chance to provide feedback on their efforts in engaging in physical activity. And next we'll have Maricela with methods.
As mentioned earlier in the slides, our participants include 6 graduate students ranging from ages 24 years of age to 37 years of age. All participants are healthy and did not have any health issues preventing them from engaging in physical activity or being able to complete the study. All participants reported little to no exercise regularly prior to the start of the study. All steps are counted in all settings throughout the day. The materials each participant needed were a Fitbit or Garmin. A Fitbit is a physical activity tracker designed to help motivate you while helping you become more active. The Fitbit counts all steps taken while wearing the device on your wrist. A Garmin watch does the same thing a Fitbit does and is primarily used is designed to track distance. A Garmin watch is most used by runners or triathletes. The Garmin also has a GPS device installed. Google Docs Excel sheet is where our data will be recorded. All participants are female with the exception of one. All participants and partners will document the data collected on Google Docs Excel sheet. Participants and partners will use the Fitbit Garmin devices to collect daily numbers of steps. Next, we have Sarah with the images.
Here we have pictured what a Garmin tracker dashboard would look like, just to give you guys a little bit of a reference of the technology that we had been using this time throughout this study. And here we have a Fitbit dashboard. It looks a little bit different, but ultimately it's the same thing. It tells us the amount of steps that we got each day, and it goes further into that than just that, but that's all we really needed them for. Now that you have seen what we've been using for the past several weeks and hopefully understand more about the technology, we're going to move on to the actual procedure that we followed.
Throughout the entire study, all participants wore their Fitbit or Garmin to track their daily step totals. During baseline, all participants were prohibited from seeing or knowing their step totals. This meant that if step totals were able to be seen on the wrist tracker, it would be covered up with tape to prohibit view. Each of us exchanged our login information to our Fitbit or Garmin app with a partner. In the original study, the tape was signed to ensure that it was not tampered with by the participants. Since our group meets virtually, the exchange of login information served as the signature that is referenced in the original study. The participants changed the password on the app, so we were not able to log in and check our step count. Since our study is a multiple baseline design, the intervention phases were introduced at different stages for each participant. This meant that intervention began on days 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16 for the different participants. After each participant completed 5 days of the intervention phase, we started a return to baseline phase. This meant that all previous baseline procedures were in place once more. During the intervention phases, all participants are given their login information back in order to track daily steps and ensure that step goals are being met. Each week, a different group member acted as the experimenter, and when in that role, we would provide daily feedback to each group member whom was in the intervention phase. If step goals were met, the experimenter would provide social praise, such as "nice work" or "you're on a roll." If step goals were not met, the experimenter would provide encouragement, such as "you'll get there tomorrow" or "keep walking, you can do it." To attain daily step goals, each of us averaged our baseline totals and then added 2,000 steps to that number. This new number was our daily step goal during the intervention phase. If we hit our step goal 3 days in a row during intervention, we increased our step goal by 500 steps daily for the remainder of the intervention phase. If step goals were not being met, the goals were not increased. To ensure inter-observer agreement, each participant was required to not be aware of their step count. Each of us switched information with our partners, who then changed the passwords on our devices so we could not access them. Each participant only had access to their passwords during intervention phases. Devices like the Fitbits and Garmins are mechanical recording devices that allow individuals to monitor their own behavior. To show treatment integrity, our partners entered our baseline data into our shared Google Excel document at the end of the baseline phase. This was to ensure that the participants did not skew baseline data by accessing their daily step count and altering the number of steps they were taking. If we were permitted access to step totals during baseline phases, it could mean that we would take less steps to ensure that we were able to have a reasonable goal during intervention phases. Each of us was responsible for recording our own intervention data every day into the Excel document. We also ensure treatment integrity in IOA by checking that our partners inputted the data correctly into the Excel document. Aaron will now be going over the results of our study.
Overall, the daily step totals for each participant varied following the introduction of self-monitoring and feedback intervention. The goal of 2,000 steps more than the baseline was only reached 3 times throughout the 6 participants. However, a decrease after the baseline only occurred 4 times and was between the range of 91 steps and 1,334 steps. Other than those 4 times, the intervention had an increase in steps when treatment was introduced. Each participant's first baseline varied in days, with one participant, Aaron, having 5 days, Ashley 7 days, JC 9 days, Marcella 11 days, Sarah 13 days, and Trinicia 15 days. After that, the treatment would last 5 days. Then the experimenters would implement a second baseline lasting 5 days and would then reintroduce the treatment for 5 days. I will now show you each participant's daily step totals. You can see a graph here to show you the increases and decreases they had daily for each participant. Aaron showed that he had an original baseline of 7,620 average steps after the first 5 days that ranges from 1,993 to 13,131 steps. He had an increase of 7,047 average steps after the first intervention, which had a range of 1,755 to 25,050. Praise and self-monitoring was then removed from the second baseline, and Aaron's steps decreased by 9,973 average steps with a range of 3,174 to 14,357. Then praise and self-monitoring was reintroduced, and his average steps increased by 2,756. The reintroduction of treatment did, however, decrease by 170 average steps less than the original baseline, and had a range of 3,174 to 14,357. Aaron was the only one to reach his goal during both interventions of an increase of 2,000 steps, but he had a decrease in steps between the first and second treatments. Ashley, the second participant, had a baseline of 6,641 average steps after her 7-day baseline, with a range of 1,973 to 10,850. She had a decrease of 109 average steps when self-monitoring and praise was introduced. Her treatment phase range was 4,511 steps to 9,394 steps. The second baseline was 6,919 steps, which steps from the treatment and the first baseline. The range of the second baseline was 4,482 steps to 11,864. The reintroduction of treatment increased 1,183 average steps more than the second baseline and 1,461 more average steps than the first baseline, with a range of 5,956 to 10,323. Ashley showed a decrease in the original treatment, but then an increase of both baselines in the second treatment. Next is JC. JC had a baseline of 11,552 average steps in our first 9 days baseline, with a range of 5,813 to 17,268. JC then showed a decrease of 1,334 average steps when self-monitoring and praise was introduced, with range of 6,017 to 13,782 average steps. The second baseline showed that JC's average steps decreased again to 9,541 after the removal of self-monitoring and praise, with a range of 6,391 to 14,161. The reintroduction of treatment decreased by 91 average steps from the second baseline and 2,102 average steps from the original baseline, with a range of 6,759 to 13,214. JC is the only participant that had a decrease in both treatment phases. Next is Marcella. Marcella had a baseline of 7,967 average steps across her 11-day baseline, with a range of 5,073 to 11,548 daily steps. During her first intervention, Marcella increased her steps by 357 average steps, with a range of 5,966 to 10,271. Marcella then had a second baseline of 5 days in which her average steps were 8,713 with a range of 7,324 to 12,884. She then had an increase of 690 average steps when the treatment was reintroduced and had a range of 6,286 to 13,200. Marcella had an increase in both treatments and is the only participant that increased after each phase. Now is Sarah. Sarah had a 13-day initial baseline in where she got 6,283 average steps with a range of 4,657 to 10,806. Sarah then had an increase in average steps, reaching her goal with 8,959 average steps in a range of 5,406 to 12,838. That is an increase of 2,676 average steps. Her second baseline then just dropped slightly from the treatment to 8,881 with a range of 5,654 to 14,207. The reintroduction of treatment then showed a decrease of 510 average steps from the second baseline and an increase of 2,088 from the first baseline. Sarah is the second person to reach her goal, but then had a decrease in the second intervention, but had 2,000 steps more than the first baseline on both interventions. Participant, Trinicia, had a first baseline of 15 days and had 5,779 average steps with a range of 1,519 to 8,537. When the intervention was introduced, Trinicia increased her average steps by 1,424 average steps by recording 7,203 steps in a range of 4,721 to 8,662 steps. Then a second baseline was introduced and she had a slight decrease from the treatment, but an increase from the first baseline, getting 6,979 average steps and a range of 5,145 to 8,895. The reintroduction of treatment then showed an increase of both baselines. She had 908 more than the second baseline and 2,108 from the first baseline, which would be reaching her goal if we were going by that baseline. The second treatment had an average step of 7,887 and a range of 5,145 to 8,895 steps. Trinicia was the third person that had an increase in steps during treatment. There was a functional relationship between praise, self-monitoring, and increased steps for Trinicia, Aaron, and Marcella. Sarah and Ashley's steps both increased and decreased from the original baseline and reintroduction of treatment. JC had a decrease in steps when the treatment of praise and self-monitoring was reintroduced. We will now go back to Marcella to discuss the conclusion of our study.
All 6 participants fulfilled their portions of the agreement in completing baseline and intervention twice. All of the participants had different time frames. Within those time frames, 5 out of the 6 participants showed some signs of improvement over the course of the study. 2 participants met their goal of 2,000 additional steps during self-monitoring interventions. Although all 6 participants did not meet the 2,000 additional step goal, 5 of the 6 did show some signs of improvement and an increase in overall steps. When asked if self-monitoring was a factor in maintaining and setting higher goals, all participants agreed. The results show that owning and utilizing a mechanical device such as a Garmin or Fitbit can increase your overall physical activity by hundreds of steps a day. This allows for a healthier lifestyle and ultimately happier life. Studies show self-monitoring and self-managing has shown to be extremely effective in improving a person's quality of life because it increases self-motivation, willingness, and overall dedication. By being able to self-monitor, one has the ability to set achievable daily goals or weekly goals and eventually see noticeable differences mentally, emotionally, socially, and physically. Being able to hold oneself accountable can promote motivation to stick with the intervention put in place In this case, using a Fitbit or Garmin device tracking physical activities. Seeing the number of steps taken provides built-in goals for the next data period or day. For example, if one walks 1,500 steps a day, one may make a goal for 1,550 tomorrow and continue to add steps daily or weekly. The accountability that comes with self-monitoring and the built-in goals are beneficial to the participant because they can visually see their progress, which can be automatically reinforcing or self-motivating. The experimenter delivered daily feedback during the intervention stages via Google Docs. This serves not only as feedback, but also increases performance and momentum. All comments were given using positive reinforcement, and each and every comment was just as motivating. Overall, being able to see feedback and graphs allows for better results and higher goals. If goals are combined with tangible incentives, such as money, movie tickets, spa outings, drinks, and so forth, it would not only make for a rewarding experience, but it would build even more momentum and motivating for participants in the study. Although only 4 out of the 6 participants failed to meet the goal each day, there was significant differences in the number of total steps taken by 5 out of the 6 participants. Overall, the study shows that being able to self-monitor has the ability to increase physical activity and improve your outlook on physical activity. Being able to increase the amount of time one is physically active has many health benefits. Each participant was willing to partake in the study, and 5 out of the 6 showed signs of improvement. 2 out of the 6 met their daily goals of taking 2,000 additional steps, and 1 participant showed little to no signs of improvement. The longer one commits, the more physical activity, the healthier one becomes. Next, we move to Trinisha with limitations.
As other team members of mine alluded to earlier in our presentation, the goal of self-monitoring in physical activity for most people increased the number of steps when comparing multiple baseline data recordings. Success of the participants, there were several limitations of this study. These limitations include taking the Fitbit Garmin off and forgetting to put it on after getting out, which resulted in uncounted steps. In addition, changes in schedules, family commitments had an impact on the participant step count. The changes could have prevented the participants from being as active as needed, limiting some from hitting their daily step goal. Daily step goals, setting a weekly average goal might have produced a greater step increase and given the participant the opportunity to make up steps on another day of the week. An example of this actually is instead of going in daily to put in for each person, what you could have done is on Monday, if your goal was to get 1,500 steps, you could have made up the additional steps throughout the rest of the week. And instead of being pressured to go in on that day to meet that goal. Social praise, example, great job, almost there. You exceeded your goal. Nice for all the participants. It was not enough reinforcement on its own to keep motivation and reach step goals. And what you guys see on the slide is an example of the Google Doc form that we have alluded to throughout the presentation. To give you a little bit of information on how we utilize this, and no, not every participant's information is on here because the document was actually too long. So I just took a snippet of Aaron and Ashley just to give you guys an idea of actually what the Google Doc looks like that we've been alluding to the entire presentation. So as you can see, you have the date. I'm going to use Aaron as an example. You have the date. Aaron's first 5 days of baseline was from 9/28 through October 2nd. And then his next days were intervention, which was from October 3rd through October 7th. And as you can see, one of the experimenters actually went in and commented daily on Erin's progress. And, you know, first it started out with, wow, great start. And then the next day it was keep working, it'll get easier, and so on and so forth. And each participant, this is what it looked like for each participant during intervention phase. We would go in daily and we would comment to try and increase, to give an increase in praise and positive reinforcement. With everybody living in different states and different locations and different jurisdictions, just these few words for some of us wasn't as motivating as it should have been. But there are other incentives which I will touch upon after this slide that will explain some of the additional things that we could have done. So research does suggest that the effects of feedback are sometimes enhanced when combined with other procedures, such as incentive programs. However, in our current study, as Van Warmer reported, to enhance the effect of self-monitoring, illustrating the need for further component analysis of the type of intervention package employed in this study. These incentives might have been beneficial, especially considering all participants in the study were adults, and more than likely some had family commitments in addition to work, school, and other obligations on their schedules. An interesting avenue for future research then is the evaluation of incentive-based programs for exercise adherence, similar to the voucher program used to promote drug abstinence in a study by Silverman. Each participant's level of proactiveness was different. Unfortunately, technology can work for us and against us. One limitation is not being familiar with technology being used. If a participant forgot to charge their device or thought there was more battery, this could have resulted in uncounted steps and some participants not being able to meet their step count goal. Another limitation is technology can be frustrating when it freezes and not calculate data properly. I am a witness myself. This definitely happened to me, and I was in panic mode. But as soon as it happened, I thought that this would be a great point to utilize within our presentation as a limitation. Whether your device is working properly every so often can combat this problem and hopefully prevent future limitations in the future. This concludes our presentation. We truly thank you all for taking time out your busy schedules and hope you all learned something from us. The last 4 slides are references. Please feel free to use them for your own future references if needed. Bye-bye.